What's up, folks? David here, TexasHornsFans.com. In this video, we're going to just kind of do some commentary and breakdown of the spring preview for the offense put together by Texas Homer on that YouTube channel in collaboration with Eric Nolan at Inside Texas. They did a great job breaking down just a position-by-position preview of what to expect for spring. Spring practice is already underway. So this is the offense. We'll do the defense in another video, but I hope you get a lot of value from it. Drop your comments below. Let me know what you're kind of looking forward to. But we just kind of go through and make some comments on their previews and their breakdown, but they did a great job. So credit to Texas Homer, a YouTube channel, and also Inside Texas.
Today we are talking about the spring football depth chart for the Texas Longhorns. We are going to go into each and every position, and we will move down the depth chart at each spot. Your burning questions will be answered. Have you been wondering about Prince Dorbah, Tyler Owens, Hudson Card, Jared Wiley, BJ Foster, Anthony Cook? So have I, but I couldn't do it alone. We have my friend Eric on, owner of Inside Texas and a dope journalist who breaks UT news constantly. I'm going to pepper him with questions, and we will know exactly where the team stands by the end of this video at each spot.
Hey, thanks for having me, Homer. I'm a big fan of your work. Excited to have you with Inside Texas. I'm looking forward to having the ability to reach more fans, and I can see you've already got a good community growing, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And we definitely have nothing on Inside Texas, but we are making something cool here, I think. But let's not waste any more time, man. Let's get into some things. You ready to get going? Start with offense. The first position group is our most watched position battle. The fans are really excited for Casey Thompson and Hudson Card. There's some things I want to get cleared up about both of those guys. Sark said in his first press conference that Thompson and Card were equally repping with the ones. Thompson was electric in the Alamo Bowl, and Card's arm has been really impressive behind the scenes. It's going to be a legit QB battle. So, Eric, when do we see the QB competition actually resolved?
Yeah, fans are going to want some resolution in the spring, but I wouldn't expect that. It's going to be a spirited battle probably going into the first game. So don't look for this to be decided anytime soon, and it shouldn't be because I think they are somewhat equally matched. Obviously, Casey has the experience factor. Hudson Card probably has more athletic upside. More NFL upside, but Mac Jones wasn't exactly the prototype, and look what Sarkisian was able to do with him. Casey Thompson has a lot of innate ability. He sees the field well. He's a good leader. He's got a better arm than he's given credit for. It's not Hudson Card's arm. Card has more upside. There's no doubt about it. But Sark's going to be looking for who leads the offense better, who brings the best out of the teammates, and that's going to be decided over a lot of reps, not just a month-long block of practices.
Cool. There's a lot to look forward to there.
Yeah, I think those points that they made are really spot on, given that, sure, Casey doesn't have the reps that you might hope for in your next starting quarterback, but he certainly at least has been with the program for 3 years, not only just getting used to everything. The downside is that this is the third offensive coordinator in as many years, but also just the relationships with the players, right? So, ushering in a new leader where Sam was a 4-year starter, but Casey still being able to, develop friendships and trust and relationships with the current, the current players is a big deal. Obviously, this is Hudson's second year in the program, so I don't see where Hudson Card beats out Casey Thompson, but just like kind of traditional sports coach speak. Don't expect, I wouldn't expect a clear, spring winner coming out on top. Casey may start with the ones, the first team offense in the spring game, but expect at least the communication to be, I think, that this is just a head-to-head battle throughout the entire month of April. That's what I see anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if Hudson Card actually, maybe took over the quarterback spot next year, or, maybe even toward the end of the year if something happens with Casey or if he struggles or anything like that. But I thought Eric's point about just their intangibles, upside, arm strength was really spot on.
And this is kind of off script, but fans ask me this all the time, and it's an interesting question. Do you think whoever ends up not starting will end up transferring?
I doubt it. I think that Sarkisian holding an open, honest competition is going to endear himself to both guys. They understand that there's a competition involved, and somebody has to start, take the first snaps. That debate might not even be answered in September. And of course, there's always the injury issue. Neither guy is actually built to be durable. Some guys last longer than others. Johnny Manziel took a lot of hits and he was always fine. And then other guys are bigger and they're more brittle. So, but Card has had trouble staying healthy. Thompson is not a very big guy. And you're one play away from coming in. So you just have to prepare like you're the starter, even if you're not. There's not much upside in either guy transferring right now. Maybe if Thompson loses it and then he has 1 year after this season, then it might make sense to go pick out the perfect situation for him. But I don't think either guy would transfer. That's a common concern for fans, but I think it's a little overblown.
All right, cool. That's just soothed the fans a bit. And I want both of these guys on the team in the coming years, so that's good to hear. Let's go further down the depth chart. Is Charles Wright QB3? What's Ben Ballard up to?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Charles Wright versus Ben Ballard. You always defer to the scholarship guy. Well, unless you're Mike Yursich and it's Ballard versus Jaquindon. But yeah, I mean, Wright is going to be a guy that you can kind of throw in the fire and let him just run around and try to survive. That's what he was doing throughout his career in high school. And you like that. He's a little more battle tested. I think he's got a good arm, quick actions, quick feet. He's just going to have more advantages over Ben Ballard, even though Ballard has some time in the college game.
I'm the leader of the Charles Wright fan club. I was really impressed with his arm in high school on his huddle tape. Now I have an impossible question for you, but we got to give the fans what they want. At the end of the day, who is the starting quarterback for Texas when it's all said and done?
Casey.
Yeah, I won't shy away from the tough questions, but I will mock them at times. I think it's kind of a Kelly Bryant situation that we saw at Clemson with Trevor Lawrence right behind him. You defer to the experience first, and then you see where it goes from there. Kelly Bryant wasn't performing up to par early on, and they decided to go with Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying it's exactly like that because I really like Casey's upside. I mean, I've been a fan of Casey Thompson since he was a sophomore in high school. I was talking to my college contacts about him very early on. I was excited when Texas got him. I think there's more talent there than people realize. At the same time, there's a point where the more talented youngster overtakes the guy. Now, is that this year, next year, or maybe not at all because Casey has other attributes to make up for it. But I do think that there's a chance that Hudson starts at some point next year. But I think it's probably more likely that Casey is your opening day starter. But I'm not sure. I urge fans not to take sides. Just hope that the best quarterback plays.
Super silly, and we want both of these kids to succeed. Now, what do you know about Thompson and Card's leadership behind the scenes? We do have a power vacuum there.
One thing I'll say about Charles Wright, too, is that, I don't expect to see much of anything from him this year, 2021. But, just the fact that you can fill a quarterback room up with, talented, successful Texas high school quarterbacks is always valuable. And especially, when you've got guys back there that are talented enough to push the ones who are sort of leading, just in terms of, hey, there's a guy that's really hungry and really talented right behind you. So just having that, I think, top to bottom talent full of options is real. It's not just something that's fake that the coaches talk about, because you don't know what's going on in practice if Charles Wright does some things that just wow people. So sometimes that happens, and if you're Casey or Hudson, you kind of look at that and you're thinking, holy crap, I need to, this isn't just going to be given.
Since Sam declared for the NFL.
Yeah, they're both more quiet as far as leadership goes. They're a little more quiet than a lot of your rah-rah quarterbacks. But that's everybody has their own style of leadership. They are leaders without a doubt. They're not passive. They're confident. Hudson was at the Under Armour All-American game that my buddy coached at, and Jerry was out there as well. Jerry Hamilton here inside Texas. That coach, who has coached some of the best players that have come out of high school in a long time, told me that he has everything you want. And I said, what do you mean by everything? He said, everything. I said, leadership, because that's one of my questions about Hudson, because he is a little more quiet. And he said, yeah, he definitely has the leadership. He knows he's good. But he's not overconfident, and that's what you want out of your quarterback. So I don't have any concerns there. But I will say this: Bijan Robinson is probably the current leader of the team, at least on the offensive side of the ball, which is rare for a running back.
That's cool to hear. Yeah, not surprising at all though. If you watch Bijan in interviews or even just kind of following him on Instagram, he just seems like he's like a 20-year-old. I'm assuming he's 20, going on his mid-30s, right? He just seems so much more confident and mature than most superstars his age, right? Just super, super impressive. So that's really cool to hear. And I mean, I would absolutely love for him to be the focal point of the offense.
Dude, we are super lucky to have these two quarterbacks battling it out. No matter who wins, the fans will win. We haven't had that for a long time. And that's also awesome that you brought up Bijan as the leader, because we are covering the running backs next. Running back is no surprise. Bijan Robinson will be the starter. What can we expect to see out of him in this new offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the year we'll see him with some more versatility than we saw last year. You know, we were just happy to see him getting carries later in the season. But they'll open up a couple more pages on the playbook. You'll see him line up in the slot, and they'll throw to him more. Part of that is his ability. Part of that is they're not super in love with the wide receivers, at least not yet. So they'll take more advantage of his versatility. Sarkisian does like to have a bell cow. He's not huge into the platoon back system. So you're gonna see your fair share of Bijan as long as he's healthy.
Quick question. Under Herman, we were doing the running back by committee thing. I also know that Stan Drayton wants to preserve his back's NFL potential by not beating them up on every play. So was the subbing of the running backs more Herman or Drayton?
Nah, I mean, they like running back by committee. That was their preference. They also have some of that blood for the program. You've got to really earn your way to get onto the field. I mean, we saw the same with Keontae Ingram his freshman year when he was the most talented running back. It's like, get these guys the ball. Mac Brown did it. Mac Brown didn't start playing Cedric Benson until after they lost to OU his freshman year.
Yeah, running back by committee is fine as long as it's actually working and resulting in wins, right? But sometimes you just got to go with the guy who has the hot hand. You got to go with the guy who is dominating the defenses and who is clicking with the offensive line blocking schemes. So, I don't understand a lot of coaches' mindset, the running back by committee, as if it's something that they have to do or that they just have to stick with the strategy and completely punt on what's actually working, right? To me, that's just complete lunacy, but whatever.
So it's like sometimes these head coaches are the last to know what they're doing.
Cool. Thanks for clearing that up. The number 2 spot is looking like Rashawn Johnson. So how much should we expect to see him on the field?
Yeah, well, of course, Bijan's going to get the bulk of the carries, but Rashawn is so versatile and so tough that you can do a lot of things with him. He's going to get his carries for sure, but also he's going to be a good blocker. He also has good hands. He does a little bit of everything. I'm excited to see him running behind this offensive line. When there's a more predictable lane, he's going to be better. He doesn't have like the feel and necessarily the nuance that a natural running back like Bijan has. But if he has a predictable lane, he's going to hit it really hard. The urgency he runs with, the toughness that he runs with. He's a little bit reckless. Sometimes he's not the most natural. He'll miss a hole. But when it's time to get downhill and get it, he does that. And I think it's this offensive line change is gonna benefit him as much as anybody.
What?
Yeah, I'm still super pumped to have a running back with Rashawn Johnson's style complementing what Bijan can do. Because Roshan's the type of guy that can just absolutely pound it down your throat and who runs incredibly tough. He may not have the efficiency in terms of yards per carry or the versatility of a guy like Bijan, but man, what a perfect like complement to that. And again, it can't be understated that this guy came in as a quarterback, right? So, and just in terms of his ability to make things happen as a running back in the college game, yeah, just absolutely love having him back there. But again, hopefully he's treated like a number 2 guy, but still being needed in certain situations and on certain schemes.
What's Rashawn's leadership like behind the scenes? Is he a leader on the team?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. It's very rare to get this type of leadership from the running back position that they have. Everybody respects Rashawn. Everybody loves Rashawn. Of course, he it's rare to get leadership from a running back, but really he's got quarterback DNA in him.
That is a good point, that Rashawn came up as a quarterback and has that mentality.
Yeah, that is cool. It's just not just the fact that, his selfless move from quarterback to running back, but yeah, I mean, you have a history of being a quarterback, being the number 1 focal point of the team. That is cool that he's naturally carrying that mentality and sort of leadership responsibility over, into the running back position, especially given that we're ushering in, we're trying to find a new leader. We're trying to find a new quarterback leader to take the spot that Sam is leaving.
So finally, we got to figure out who the third running back is. I know Daniel Young is back. So what's his status?
Yeah, Daniel Young's back with the team. Sets a very high floor as far as the backup. Or I wouldn't want to call him an emergency running back because he's talented enough to play, especially in short yardage situations. But yeah, he guards against any depth concerns. And of course, we're waiting for your guy Jonathan Brooks to get there in August, and that'll be another body in there to compete with.
Dude, I'm excited for Jonathan Brooks. I think he's going to be a special running back for us, and that room's only going to improve in 22 and 23. So that's a wrap on running back.
Yeah, certainly cool to see Daniel Young back. Again, more of a style of runner, kind of like Roschon, bigger, kind of a pounder. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of gets used in those kind of short yardage type situations, maybe toward the goal line. I think of guys like Cody Johnson, that was just used perfectly for that type of back. But yeah, and then bringing up that point of Jonathan Brooks, joining as a true freshman, is going to be awesome, just to get more depth, more versatility back there, and having those guys just kind of learning from each other and building off of each other too. Just kind of discovering more skills. What strengths does Jonathan Brooks bring that maybe Roschon doesn't bring, or and figuring out how these guys kind of fit, and figuring out maybe Jonathan Brooks gets in there during certain key situations. So that'll be interesting to see.
We're looking solid there. Now let's get on to the old big boys. All right, so
my favorite,
Kyle Flood is in the house, and O-line is
the game is played from the line of scrimmage out.
Major topic amongst the fans. I've heard it both ways, that our O-line needs work and also that we look good there. So which one is it? What's the state of the offensive line, and what is the current starting lineup at this moment?
Yeah, the offensive line is in a lot better shape than I think people realize, because they saw the struggles for the bulk of last season. But once you saw these guys getting on the move, working horizontally, you started to see creases open up. And of course, Bijan is going to help them look better. But there's a lot of talent for the new coaching staff to work with, and I think they're sort of going off those guys that would have been good at Alabama or had a chance to compete at Alabama. They're going kind of off traits, more so off of the play on the field that they saw last year, and that's best epitomized by Christian Jones being the current starting left tackle. I say current because that's subject to change, like all these are. The depth chart is just sort of a loose template. It's ever changing. We're filming on Saturday, and it's already a different lineup than they had earlier in the week. So the depth isn't as important as the composite of all the traits that they have to work with, and they have a lot more to work with than people realize. So you've got Christian Jones at left tackle, sort of looks the part. He's big, he's physical. He does lack some technical refinement, and that's why you see him get beat in pass pro. But he's strong, physical, and has all the tools to become actually an early round draft pick. If they can get him tuned in to left tackle, and it's a big win for the staff. At left guard, it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, left tackle is going to be a huge spot to fill without Sam Cosme there, but hopefully what we see is a lot of these young guys surprising us a lot. The good thing about a cohesive offensive line is that they can really work together and kind of help each other pick up the slack where, if one lacks in pass protection, to some degree you can kind of make up for that a little bit by figuring out how these guys can work together more. That's why I'm really excited about Derek Kirkstetter coming back and just kind of bringing his experience. Where I think what we're going to end up seeing is a lot of the other offensive line positions are going to be quite a bit younger, which I'm actually excited about.
Junior Angelo right now, Denzel Okafor is working there. He's a sixth-year senior. Still has problems with his pass sets, but he has good length for guard, and he's a good drive blocker. He has a good chance to hold on to the left guard, but that's not set in stone. Probably the only thing that's set in stone is Jake Major starting at center. Obviously, you saw him play last year for an injured Derek Kirkstetter, and he came in and played admirably. He's quick off the ball. He's some of that tackle quickness that you saw in his high school highlights. That's coming across at center. You have to be quick off the ball at center, otherwise you're going to get crushed. He's able to make blocks that Kirkstetter wasn't because of that tackle athleticism. I know Kirstetter's played tackle, but he's more of a grappler than he is a pure athlete. At right guard, Junior Angelo settled in there for now. There's a good chance he ends up there, but that's not, we don't know that for sure. There's a long way to play out. He might end up back at the left side, and he's going to get pushed even to be a starter just because, and that's a good sign that there is depth here, more depth than people realize. Then a right tackle today, Saturday. That means Isaiah Hookfin was starting today, but earlier in the week it was Andre Karich. Hookfin is another guy that if he was on the Alabama roster, you wouldn't be able to tell him apart from a starter or a depth guy. He just looks the part. He's big, athletic. The thing that he has going for him is he's athletic enough to redirect after getting beat. And that's something you really have to have, especially in a league that's kind of keyed up on the pass rush. So those are your starters right now. But again, that started changing, and it's not even worth really hanging your hat on it as far as this being set in stone. It's going to change a lot. There's that change a lot of starters right now. But again, that's.
Just want to go back to that too. So, obviously, I think to me, Jake Majors is probably the most interesting spot here. I wouldn't be surprised if Kirkstetter ends up starting at one of the guard positions, but I'm really, really high in hoping that Jake Majors really steps up and surprises a lot of people, along with Hookfin as well. Okafor, has Eric said on there, has had just kind of an up and down. Frustrating career, I think, at Texas. He's one of those guys who kind of is really good at the thing that he's good at, but he's going to frustrate you some as well. So, any projected changes on here, I would maybe say Kirkstetter, ending up starting at one of the guard positions.
Started changing, and it's not probably more talent at guard than what's starting. You talk about Tyler Johnson. Again, he looks the part. I ran into him at Buffalo Wild Wings in the 9th grade. Nobody had ever heard of him, and I thought he was a senior in high school. He looks like an Alabama offensive lineman. He's athletic enough to be an Alabama offensive lineman. Kyle Flood just needs to sort of harness that beast and get him out and get some of that dog coming out of him that you have to have. He's got Justin Blaylock's size and athleticism, but does he have that mentality? If he's not in your starting five, that tells you that there's actual ability. He was playing great last year in the bowl game, making reach blocks that typical guards can't make. They're in a good spot offensive line, and that's just the first six.
How's Andre Karich looking?
Today he was back working at left tackle behind Christian Jones. So they're looking to find the tackle depth that they need. Need at least three guys, a true left tackle and then a swing guy and then a right tackle. There's a good chance that he ends up starting and Christian Jones ends up on the right side. Ideally, Christian Jones ends up on the left side, and then you have a really high floor over on the right side. If Christian Jones can beat out Andre Karich on the left side, Kyle Flood's earning his money right off the bat. Karich has a good chance to be a right.
The right side has, without a doubt, been the weakest point over the past 2 years. I don't think there's any question about that.
Right tackle, but Karich also has enough fight and anger in his game to play guard. And he could be a fantastic guard coming out of high school.
And of course, we are anticipating the return of Derek Kerstetter after his injury. Where does he fit into the mix?
Yeah, Kerstetter's still rehabbing from his very ugly injury late last season. He needs to get right, get healthy. But there's a lot of value in him not being out there right now to the staff. Staff can trim these younger guys, and then they can kind of plug in Derek wherever they feel he's most needed. If they have tackle spots situated, then he's going to have to fight at guard. Worst case scenario is he's a backup role player. But that would tell you a lot of positives about the offensive line. The fact that you can't just plug in, guarantee Derek Kerstetter a starting spot is proof that this offensive line is improving.
It's exciting to hear that the offensive line is looking good. We can finally start to get rid of some of the narratives that the O-line is the weak link. And I'm going to have my eyes glued on all those positions throughout camp. But that's a wrap with O-line. Are you ready to get into the wide receivers and slot receivers? I was reading your humidor on Inside Texas the other day, and I saw that we aren't really doing wide receiver positions at this moment, so no X, Z, or slot, just inside and outside receivers. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see kind of the scheme, like the schematic of that. I think over the past few years, we've been used to that kind of traditional two outside guys with the kind of inside slot. Over the past few years, we've seen L.J. Humphrey take over the slot, have a phenomenal year. Devin Duvernay obviously having a phenomenal year, and then having last year kind of a weird rotation of Jake Smith and Jordan Whittington there. So, who knows? I think a lot of us are coming in thinking that, still kind of with that mindset that, Jake and Jordan are still going to need to rotate there. Obviously, Jake is out for the spring with the injury early, but, who knows? Maybe we see more of four receivers on the field, and as opposed to that X, Z, and that H wide receiver spot that we've been used to.
Yeah, under Herman, it was pretty rigid. He was looking for the prototype X as your boundary receiver, the speed guy is your Z guy, and then the slot reliable guy. He had a different version of a slot. I call him the slot machine, which is kind of that running back build. They're strong after the catch. They can break a tackle. Devin Duvernay fits that, even though he was 6'4". Little Jordan Humphrey fits that. It's not exactly the OU type of slot, which I call a vertical slot, which you're going to probably see Sarkisian want to use more. But Sarkisian isn't as hung up on those fits. For Tom Herman, you had to be a 6'5" boundary receiver like Colin Johnson. The Z was just a speed guy that you want out there to take safety help and open up the middle. Sarkisian just wants the best guys out there that can get open, catch the ball. And that's what he's working at. Some guys prototype better to other fits, some fits than others, and then you're going to try them there first. But as evidenced by Jordan Whittington playing at the X, which is a boundary receiver that we saw Colin Johnson play for a long time, he's not hung up on these prototypes.
That's interesting that Whittington is playing on the outside. What's the deal with slot receivers now that Jake Smith is out? Does Whittington end up moving back inside?
Yeah, so the move of Jake Smith breaking his foot first day of practice, that's definitely going to probably shake things up. Jaden Alexis is a talented true freshman, but is he ready to play there in prime time? Probably not. So I could definitely see Jordan Whittington going over to the slot, which is where he played, and he fits that slot machine thing I was just telling you about, where he's got that running back ability after the catch. He's definitely a guy that's dangerous. Why he wasn't getting 3 crossing routes every game last year, I'm not sure. But he has to stay healthy, of course. He looks leaner, which is definitely going to probably help him, not have those soft tissue injuries he's had in the past. Big season for him. But, yeah, he's probably going to move to the slot, and then you've got Kai Money there.
I definitely think that Jordan is that perfect kind of versatile slot position player. Just from the fact that he's kind of a matchup nightmare, just in terms of once he gets his hand in the ball in his hands. But again, looking at his short history with Texas, he's definitely been that type of guy who he's just got to stay healthy, right? I mean, how many games has he actually played when he's close to 100% healthy? Not many at all, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see, I think, how Sarkisian comes up with a way to use him effectively and to try to create mismatches in the middle of the field. with Jordan or use him, as a decoy. Make defenses think they're going, one way when they're actually using him another way. So, but yeah, interesting that he was getting looks on the outside and now may be forced to kind of move back into that slot.
He's still getting reps in practice, which upsets the fan base. But Sark's managerial style is to not come in and upset the apple cart. He wants to see for his own eyes which guy should be where. He's not just going to bench a guy just because fans don't like him or whatever. So Jaden Alexis is probably the guy to watch to make noise. He fits sort of that slot machine and vertical slot template I was talking about. He's got long speed to get over the top, but he's also strong after the catch, and that shouldn't be too surprising. His dad was Rich Alexis, played running back in the NFL for a long time. Also, I think he's valedictorian of his class, so he's going to pick up the offense rather quickly. So yeah, you want to get Jake back and healthy. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Jordan Whittington come in and play that role capably. He might even be better than Jake long term. Who knows?
Dude, there's no better slot machine in the land than someone actually named Kai Money. So, but I actually want to circle back to Jordan Whittington originally being on the outside. How's he doing as an outside receiver? That's super interesting to me.
Yeah, well, he's got good hands and he can get open. He can run good routes. The first time, when he came onto the scene as a freshman in high school, he also already looked like a senior in high school physically. Had him pegged as a safety all the way, sort of like a Brandon Jones type. Then I went and watched him run routes and was blown away. And so, you look for the different ways to create separation. Some guys do it with size. Some guys do it with speed. Some guys do it with route running. He can do it with quickness and route running. And over in the boundary, when you're trying to convert 3rd and 8, you don't care how the separation comes about. If you can get it, throw it to him, catch it. He's reliable. He's tough. He'll convert. So he does have some of those attributes that you want at X, even though he doesn't look like that skyscraper that you're used to seeing over there under Tom Herman.
All right, so we're seeing Joshua Moore and Kelvonte Dixon as Z most likely, with Alvonte Woodard and Marcus Washington backing up the X most likely. So how are the top wide receivers looking?
Yeah, so if you're looking at some of those guys that are more outside, Kelvonte Dixon, he can actually play inside without a doubt. But I liken him to Billy Pittman coming into Texas. He's got that long speed over the top that you like. We saw evidence of that late in the season. He's a better route runner than people realize. He might have been the second best wide receiver on the team last year, at least in practice, if you talk to former coaches. So there's a lot of talent there to work with. I expect to see him quite a bit this season. He's got a chance for a breakout spring for sure. Alvonte Woodard, he's the all-other statesman. Great dude, great teammate. Does have some ability. Hasn't really gotten his chance. When he's out there, he's made some plays. Might not have that long speed that he was rated highly for coming out of high school, but he's pretty reliable. He's tough after the catch. He does what's asked of him. Reliability is an underrated trait for a wide receiver. You're going to be at the right spot at the right time. If so, you're probably open. So there's a good chance that he has a breakout senior season. We've seen it before. John Harris had a huge one a few years back. Guy came out of nowhere and really produced. I'm not saying he'll have a breakout year like that, but I wouldn't sleep on him, especially if there's
John Harris of Naaman Forest High School in Garland, my hometown.
Opportunity. He's going to be ready to jump in the mix.
How's Marcus Washington looking?
Yeah, Marcus is another one of those that were actually
This is a guy that I really hope steps up and gets some looks. Washington's not, the prototypical body style receiver, but I think he's shown the ability to just have in-game playmaking ability. So it's hard looking at all these receivers, right? Because you're not going to have 4 receivers having 800-yard seasons. There's just not enough passes to go around, right? But yeah, he's a guy that if I had to peg as kind of a sleeper guy who could end up being a starter, it would be Washington.
The outside receiver with no X or Z attached to it makes sense, because I do think he has the speed to play outside to the field. But his best position is going to be X, and again, he's another example of not needing somebody tall to play the position. As long as you can get open, catch the ball, the open receiver is a quarterback's best friend, and that could be Marcus. If Jordan Whittington moves over to the slot, it's going to open up more reps for Marcus. long term, he's probably going to be your number 2 behind O'Meary.
Uh-oh, you just said the magic words to the fan base, Troy O'Meary. How are things progressing behind the scenes with Troy?
Yeah, Troy, Troy's
O'Meary, right? I've been saying or O'Meary.
Troy's got high football character. He wants to be great. He's kind of attacked his rehab in a manner that you'd expect from that statement I just made. Yeah, he's already kind of an urban legend because of the spring he had last year. But when I really bought into him was really his senior year was really good. But when I saw him separating from good cornerbacks at Texas with speed, not just size, that's what really caught my eye. Great hands, attacks the ball, huge wingspan, huge catch radius, but better long speed. That long speed gives him significant upside, more than I.
Yeah, that's a great point about when you look at him on some of the film from last spring, you almost kind of saw a Colin Johnson lookalike out there, but if he can bring more top end speed in addition to hands like that, he could be the Bijan Johnson of the wide receivers. And the guy who steps up to be the reliable go-to player, which I really, really think was missing last year. We saw what the offense, I think, could do with a go-to number 1 guy, a few years ago in LJ Humphrey, and then in 2019 with Devin Duvernay. So, hopefully he steps up to be that guy. But, still overcoming an injury and not having any college in-game experience.
I'd anticipated. So it looks like some of those bigger Clemson wide receivers that you've seen in the past.
Is a healthy Troy in the starting lineup?
Oh, yeah. If he's healthy, he's going to he's going to be probably your X. Again, I'm over here, laying waste to these stereotypes of the tall X wide receiver, but Troy can pull it off. He's not just a target guy that's going to post up a smaller defender. He's going to go over the top as well.
That's cool to see Eric being that confident that, hey, if he's ready and he's healthy, he's in. That not to being kind of a question of a battle between him and Marcus Washington or Cavante Dixon or whatever. If it ends up being O'Meary, Moore, and then Whittington kind of in the slot, and then figuring out how to mix in the other guys. That gives me a lot of confidence just in the, that's a pretty solid, that's going to end up being what it is, as opposed to just kind of wondering who's going to step up and fill those starting spots, which I don't think is good when you're trying to usher in, a new quarterback. The fact that it sounds like there's more solidified expectation at receiver, I think is going to make Casey's transition, or if it ends up being Hudson Card, probably a little easier, and maybe give them a lot more confidence too.
Awesome.
And also, his hands are really good. So, you could probably see him in the RPO game. They might move him around a lot, hit him on a tunnel screen. If the goal is to pick up 6, they want to convert a first down. You can do that with him.
Awesome, dude. Are there any other wide receivers we need to keep an eye on for a potential breakout season?
Kennedy Lewis is one that, when you see size and speed, he's pretty intriguing. He's running great track times as a senior in high school, was a little raw. He's had some issues with staying eligible. But if he's back and healthy and plugged in, he could surprise people. All gas, no brakes means that they're going to throw it deep a lot. And that, you need guys that can get open, who can run a vertical and beat DBs. Kennedy's one of the few guys that can do that right now.
Cool. We're definitely going to have to keep our eye on the wide receiver room and kind of see how everything shake out. But we definitely have some guys on there that could help us a lot in Sark's new scheme. So we're done with.
So just kind of looking at the depth here of the projected receivers, keeping, what we're used to, just assuming 2 outside main receivers and then an inside slot. So O'Meary, Josh Moore with Cavante Dixon and Kennedy Lewis providing depth behind Moore, and then Marcus Washington and Avante Woodard. Jake Smith, who's obviously hurt, should obviously be back by August. And then Jordan Whittington taking over, for now. And then Jaden Alexis and Kai Money. So that's pretty interesting. I would love to see Dixon and Washington get more, be more in the offense, more reps. And, if Alabama's wide receiver success over the past 2 years is any indication of how willing Coach Sark is to spread the ball around and get more guys involved, Alabama's going to have 4 first-round receivers over the past 2 years, NFL first-round picks in Henry Ruggs last year, Jerry Jeudy, and then projected this year, since we're a little less than a month out from the draft recording this, obviously DeVonta Smith and Jalen Waddle. So that'll be interesting to see who all gets involved on a consistent basis, right?
The receivers, both outside and inside. So let's move on to my favorite position group, the tight ends. First things first, I know the fans want this answered fairly quickly. We currently have Cade Brewer as first string and Jerry Wiley as the second string, with Malcolm Epps at 3.
More Wiley, less Brewer.
3. What can we expect out of this position battle? Wiley coming out on top?
Yeah, this is definitely one to watch. Sark isn't nearly as quite as reliant on having a single body at tight end. Tom Herman was wanting to leave Brewer out there for the myriad roles that he asked for, in line, flexed out, motioning around. Sark is going to be more inclined to find who can do each individual job the best. You saw Alabama using 3 tight ends, inline guy, an all-purpose guy, and more of a flex athlete. Texas has that assembly. Maybe not the inline guy that he had. He had a glorified offensive lineman at Alabama. But I really like Wiley to be the guy that gets the most reps. He fits what 87 was doing at Alabama last year. He's versatile. He's athletic. He's a huge matchup problem because he's so tall. He's a legit 6'6", 6'7" guy. He's a good athlete, as evidenced by him running in the open field last year. I thought that was, Tom deserves probably some anger over how he used the tight end last year, but also a lot of props for finding Jared Wiley and going after him, because he was a very unheralded prospect. So let's not dump on Tom too hard there. But you found this guy, Tom. Go ahead and play him. Epps I really like as a.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just in terms of Wiley kind of being a surprise, but figuring out how to let him show off that athleticism. But again, there's probably not enough passes to go around for all of these guys to make an impact. But you can still have some of those games where you just let a guy like Wiley sort of take over and get the hot hand, and come up with ways to use him as a weapon. And that may only actually end up happening for like 3 games where maybe he gets 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that might be enough. We're not talking about a Jared Wiley tight end finishing the season with 900 yards and 8 or 10 touchdowns.
Number 12 at Bama, I think his number was Billingsley, more of a flex guy. They're going to bring him in and ask him to do what he can do. They're not going to bring him in and ask him to do something he can't do. The concern there with Epps is I believe he graduates in May. There's been some rumor in the past that he might look to go elsewhere, but hopefully this reinvigorates him. I think Tom had an idea what to do with him. He's just too rigid to get to the second page of his playbook to actually open up Epps. But Epps has some real value operating out of the slot. And he's a pretty good blocker on the little guys. He's not a good blocker defensive ends, but use those length on a smaller player, and he can own that guy. So there's some good parts here. Brewer's still going to play a little bit. He's versatile. You can do some things with him. He's probably a better option in 12 personnel rather than 11 personnel.
And Sark mentioned 2 of our early enrollee tight ends, and Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis, at his press conference. And I like both of those kids a lot. And they are tied for the 4th spot. So what's the word on these 2?
Yeah, Helm is one that has been he's been impressing people with his work ethic and his fluidity as a route runner at his size. He's a really big kid, legit 6'5". He's kind of in the Wiley mold where he can do a little bit of everything and could potentially be a really good tight end. Juan, There's not a lot of high school tape out there on Juan. It's hard to know what he is. We know that he's a well-coordinated guy. He's put on a lot of muscle in a short time to get there. It was quipped to me that the traps might be the highest point on his body. So he's taken to the weight room well. And he's going to have some of the best hands on the team, regardless of position. He can go and get it. But I think I would see him more in an H-back role, whereas sort of how Brewer specs out. And then you've got Helm more like Wiley. So yeah, bright future with those guys. And then we'll see what they do with Jatavian Sanders when he gets there. It's going to be a pretty crowded room.
And we have Braden Liebrock waiting in the wings too. What's the deal with Braden?
He's out with a shoulder injury. He's a guy that could be that flex guy, sort of like Epps. The wonderful hands, great route runner. You just want those guys to be a serviceable blocker, and then you can get them out on the field.
All right, final tight end question. Is tight end the deepest position on the entire squad?
I think I would have to go with corner, actually, for 1 year and 1 year only, unfortunately. But right now, just because the talent at corner is also all going to be drafted. But tight end, as for the college game, what they're trying to do, Tom Herman would have loved to have this room earlier in his tenure. It's really weird that he took projects at tight end when he was so reliant on them. I'll never understand that.
Yeah, man, it's hard to see the rationale in a lot of that. But that's a wrap for offense, so that's awesome, man. So let's zoom out a little bit and give an overview to the fans of like what the new offense will look like in the coming months.
Yeah, I mean, summing up what the offense is looking to do, or the pieces that they have, there's the chance to have a really explosive offense that's going to be started off by the run game, and what I think will be an improved offensive line, not just because Bijan makes them look better, but because they are improving and the pieces are in place. And then you've got the quick action and the quarterback passing.
That's a really good point about just the relationship between the offensive line and the running back. It's really, they really need each other. Yes, a running back like Bijan who knows how to hit the hole, who knows how to use the timing, and who knows how to wait on blocks and watch that sort of unfold in front of him, can absolutely make an offensive line look better. But an offensive line that also understands the style of runner that Bijan is and what he needs them to do, whether you're scoop blocking against a linebacker or doing a zone blocking scheme where Bijan is able to kind of pick the hole that he wants, or if it's more of like an isolation type of block scheme where he's going specifically toward a hole. But also with the athleticism and awareness that if that hole breaks down, can he kick it outside? So that's a good point about working, with sort of a relationship, understanding how a running back and an offensive line really need each other.
To RPO that will need a slot receiver, a reliable slot receiver to develop, so you can run sort of that triangle between the quarterback, the running back, and the slot. Lots of bodies at tight end. There's some outside receivers that can break out because of all the other things that are happening in and near the box. They stand to benefit from having man coverage. You're going to have these guys take advantage of these opportunities. I think they're going to have those players, and I think it's going to be a good offense overall. But the key is
yeah, it's going to be awesome to see how they're going to use Casey Thompson as well, like they were talking about, allowing Casey to run and be explosive with his legs, where Sam was more of a kind of a wrecking ball type style of runner, a good runner with good speed, but I think Casey can bring a level that Sam couldn't. But using Bijan and making a defense pick, right? And then having that slot receiver as an option to where you can really eat their lunch by exposing just that over pursuit from a defense sometimes. So that's going to be interesting to see how all that works together between Bijan, Casey, and the slot receivers.
Bijan, get that running game open. Everything else becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, man. Listening to Sark, it sounds like Bijan is going to be his Weapon X, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, folks, hope you enjoyed that video. Those are my thoughts. Definitely drop your thoughts below. Let me know what you're kind of expecting for the spring practice and the spring game. scheduled for April 24th. So that was the offensive video. We'll do the defense in another video, but again, full credit to Texas Homer and Eric at Inside Texas for putting that collab together. That was an awesome video. So don't forget to subscribe. Also click the notification bell. And don't forget to share this video out. Also check us out at TexasHornsFans.com. See you next time.